And away we go.
Episode 25, part 2. And, sometimes people decide to put themselves in the wrong place at the wrong time.
We're going back to Minnesota.
We're going back to Minnesota.
Last episode we talked about Minnesota, and then and about the Renee Good and Jonathan Ross situation. Now we're going to talk about Jake Lang, and maybe you should preface it about who he is or something.
Okay, well, the simple version is this is a MAGA protester with kind of a high profile. And he basically decided to show up as a counter-protester, not a part of a counter-protest movement, mind you.
Well, maybe give some of his history. January 6th.
Oh, he was a part of the J6ers, among other things.
In prison.
He'd been to prison. So again, kind of high profile.
Yeah, he had beaten a cop with a baseball bat. And put himself in jail, right? So I think this is important to know.
Yeah, well, right, because when people
here's a guy
Yeah.
who was put in prison for beating cops with a baseball bat, allegedly, but I got
still
enough evidence. I didn't see the evidence. I didn't see the trial, but allegedly it was enough to get him in jail and then overturned. So here it is, and he's a devout, he's definitely a white supremacist that talks about, all these things in Christian nation and everything that's happening, right? So I think it's important to understand who this guy is, right? So because there's a lot of what happening here is you'll see. So go ahead.
Well, so the point is that he showed up at some of these anti-ICE protests, kind of thinking that he caused a little bit of trouble and not realizing that it was going to backfire bigger than he thought. Because not only was he saying inflammatory things, but people recognized who he was, and it's like if he had been there as part of 5, 10, 20 guys or whatever, he might have been okay, but he was basically there on his own. So you want to explain what happened?
Well, okay, so he's going to have this rally, and he announces it, right? And he's going to show up there, and he's pro-ICE, and he's saying that these people got to come in and blah blah blah, comply or die, one of these dudes, and he gets 5 guys to show up. So there he is by himself with a bullhorn with 5 other idiots who fucking hightail it out of there when the shit hits the fan, basically. His girlfriend's there with him, I guess, and try to be a shield for him. So he gets out there, and then all of a sudden a crowd forms around him, and they push him up against this wall, right? So he's on his megaphone, and then he starts, you can watch the videos. Maybe you guys have already seen it. So he's up against this wall, and he's crying like a bitch. And, excuse my language, I'm sorry, but this gets me aggravated. So he's there whining and crying, and they're throwing water balloons at him, and it's freezing, so obviously it's going to do more damage than just getting wet. And so he's getting, maybe he's getting some jabs here and there. Looks like on the way out he got hit in the head with something that caused a cut. He's trying to say he got stabbed. I don't think that ever happened, but yeah, he got hit with something. So this is the situation once again with the insane hypocrisy with these people, that they can dish it out, right? But they can't take it. The justification for storming the Capitol and beating police on a lie, which every judge in the United States said it was a lie. Every proceeding, every court ruling said it was a lie. It was
literally thrown out 60 times.
It was thrown out 60 times. Look, if there was, half and half, maybe it's questionable. I wouldn't even believe it if it was half and half. But it's not every single accusation was denied. All the evidence points that he was making things up, right? And here's a guy who's a pathological liar, 4,000 litigations, on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Just a liar, flat out liar. Everybody's seen and heard him lie, and know it's a lie. So why would you believe him? So here's a guy wasting a lie, telling more lies, and spitting out hate speech, right? So here's the thing: he gets on there and he says, Trump now needs, okay, so I'll just tell you what happens. So he's out there, right? Guess who defends him? Guess who defends him? Some black gentlemen and a couple other guys literally make themselves body shield this guy from him, big guy. Big enough so that people back off. And he's saying, let this guy out, let this guy out, let him out. And they escort him out of there, right? Before it got worse, because it could have gotten much, much worse. So here's the poetry of this. Here's a guy who doesn't want minorities, doesn't like black people, talks about replacement theory, talks about white supremacy, talks about Christian nationalism, saved by a black man from a mob, right, of people who are just reacting to his abuse. So it's gotten so bad, and then he has the audacity to show up and throw salt on the wounds of the abuse that's been happening in this city for the last 2 months or so. Or it's escalated at least in the last couple months. It's probably been going on all year, but it's just escalating, right? And then cry about it, and then literally when it happens to him, he can't fathom it, right? Literally in tears, and I think it's really just like. And of course, instead of sitting back and trying to process it or anything, the first thing he does is write some kind of thing about how Trump's just sending the federal troops because they're out of control here in Minneapolis. When he's out of control, I mean, this once again is the projections, it's the insanity of these people. It's the like I said, people need to learn psychology, because when you can recognize this behavior and this DARVO, deny, attack, reverse, victim, offender, deny that you're the abuser, attack the abuser, reverse it, now you're the victim and they're the offender. See how that works? When you start seeing it, you'll see it in everyday life everywhere you go. And that's how these fucking Christian nationalists work. That's how these fascists work. That's how these narcissists work. They'll work that way in your lives. Hell, I'm probably guilty of it at times, and I have to fucking pull myself. Hey, wait a minute. The fuck's going on here? Am I just reacting because I feel bad about something I'm fucking doing, and they call me out and now I'm mad at them? What the fuck is that shit? That's not right. Like, everyone's capable of doing that shit because you don't want to take accountability, right? It's hard sometimes. It takes way more courage to take accountability than it does to fucking blame somebody else. And that's what all this shit boils down to, is blaming somebody else for these pathetic white dudes who can't make it in life because they're pathetic white dudes. So, and whoever else, and unfortunately, you see a lot of these agents, right? And they're Hispanic, they're black. Other ethnicities and women, and you have to wonder to yourself, what is going on in their psyche. And once again, this is a trauma bond they're in. They think and religion has a lot to play with this too, because of these tyrannical sky daddies turning to tyrannical earthly daddies. That they want to be in the proximity. They want to feel belonged. They don't understand that behind closed doors, you're just another N-word. You're just another wetback. You're just another bitch, to them. They'll be your friend, they'll marry you, but don't you dare usurp their fucking control and authority over you. As long as they know their place, you know your place, that you can be on their side until you can be their useful idiot until it doesn't serve them, right? And then you're going to get yours. So this is a trauma bond that they're having. This is Stockholm syndrome. Yep. And they think that if they get the proximity to this power, to this kind of stuff, that they're going to be okay, or believing in the bullshit themselves. Or they just need the money, Who knows what it is. But they're going to be regretting it. Yeah. I think a lot of these people are going to be regretting it, and a lot of them are going to be going to jail. And the idiots are like filming their own evidence against themselves.
Like in our last video, I wasn't kidding you. I would have assumed that when what's his name came out with his own, and once again, what's interesting is it wasn't body cam, it was his own cell phone. Mm-hmm. But that, to me, was more damning than on all the video that we saw from.
And he thought it would exonerate him.
And he thought that somehow that was going to help him. That makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Like I said, that is how they've twisted the narrative. Like I said in the last video about a guy getting shot in a pit, and them saying that it's 1942 Germany and Poland, and it's it's a fascist shooting a concentration camp victim. But they're going to turn it around and say the guy shooting the concentration camp victim is defending himself. That's the story they're being told, and they're believing it because they see the picture, but the story is reversed.
Right.
They're reversing the fucking story. The picture's there, yeah, that's what happened. But the narrative that you're creating around it is false. So, anyways. What was
Well, I think maybe that's where to close that one. So that puts closure on Minneapolis, I guess, for now. When Minnesota, but the point that we were going to make in our following videos, whether we make them today or next week or whatever, is Minnesota's the most blatant example of all this going on right now. It might be the worst, but it's getting the most press. But it's not the only place it's happening, and if it's not happening where you're at, it probably will be, and chances are it is happening where you're at, and you maybe don't realize it or know about it, or the stories are kind of being pushed down a little bit.
Right. This is the one that's getting the most press and the most vocal, for whatever reasons, But it certainly is happening everywhere, and I don't know it's even happening in our area here because I'm hearing stories coming out. You know, yeah, and I guess I don't know what else to say besides, you know, I think it's important to stay aware and to do what you can. I don't know what to tell people. I'm not the one. I hate being thought of, like it's giving advice. I hate advice. I don't like to give it. You know, I just don't. I like to, you know, be an example, but not give advice.
Well, I guess if
And maybe I need to be doing
if this
more.
is the spot where we're giving advice, try and stay aware so that, you know, if ISIS come through your neighborhood, you hear about it before it happens. If you haven't looked up, you know, the things that you can legally do and not do if they knock on your door, do that. I'm not necessarily going to list them right here. We might in the next video. If you don't already have your passport, I don't have mine, just to be upfront about that, but get that, because it's not even so much as going somewhere, but you might need it just to show who the fuck you are when they come knocking, and I'm not kidding. Communities, both physical and online. If you don't know people, get to know your neighbors, and if you do know people, get information so that they can let you know what's going on. You can let them know what's going on. So if something happens, you get my point, because both the physical, talking about ICE, and the online, talking about, you know, some of the social media networks that may or may not be here in a month. You need to know how to, when things upend, and they are, you need to know how to refine your community.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to. How bad is this going to get? I don't know. Right? It could go way south, and it could just kind of peter out. I'm hoping it just peters out, and I'm wrong. But I'd rather catastrophize than not in a case like this. And you know, I'm going to just go back to Jack Lane, this Jake Lane guy, to wrap this all up. You know, this guy lacked empathy. This guy can't see other people's point of views. This guy can't. He's a narcissist and can't put himself in anyone's position. But guess what saved him in the end? Somebody with empathy. The very man the very people that were attack him. So, you know, this is all about maintaining our humanity, maintaining our empathy, maintaining our humanity here, you know, somehow. And at the end of this, no matter what has to happen for this to stop, and I'm not saying that there's anything is off the table, because a lot of people are, no violence, no violence. Well, guess what, folks? How do you stop a bully? Pleading, is the government going to? No. Stuff's going to happen. Stuff is going to happen, and it's going to get ugly, right? How do you come out of it the other side and still hold your head up and believe you did the right thing? Because there's the old Nietzsche saying, beware of fighting monsters, lest you become a monster. So it's important that it's very strategic, it's well thought out, and that there's a way to keep your humanity at the end of this all.